I want to begin with then the question how the leagues come to be. And the first league you mentioned was the Women's League. The women's organization had been in existence, and women's struggles had been there. Just give us, I think, background to, unlike the Youth League.
Yeah.
Actually, the Women's League there are four pairs, solid movements that had activities at different decades.
Yeah, that's true.
But also this thing that women were not full members of the ANC, exposing the ANC as until Tuma.
And it was a patriarchal organization.
Yeah, that in as much as they are concerned with this question of equality, it is the equality of men.
Yeah.
Is the equality of men.
That's true.
That had there even been liberation, 1912.
Yeah.
Those Africans in there did not conceive of women as part of an important subject for the benefit of the declaration of a free, equal citizen.
Yeah.
Worthy of being voted for, but also that could vote. And it takes them what? About 30 years.
About 30 years to get there. But
so maybe a quick background to, it's not like Uma wakes up in the morning and he's like this single old man, African man who is within his generation, the one that is progressive. There must have been a response to a movement that was women-led that had been making this case.
I mean, in a sense, actually, maybe I can say something because it's going to lead to my senior here across me.
Not necessarily.
In a sense, the exclusion of women, firstly, in the first ANC constitutions, is partly surprising and not surprising. Perhaps let us deal with not surprising, because just the world over, women did not have a right to vote. So in the West and some of the established democracies, women did not vote. I mean, when the ANC was founded in 1912. In South Africa, I think only white women only started to vote in the 1930s. So it's not as if it was something unique about the ANC that in imagining citizenship, women were not included in what constitutes a full citizen.
Yes.
So that is the first point to mention. What is surprising about it, and given how the founders of the ANC, that founding generation, giving the emphasis and the pride they took in the past, in the African past, I mean, the regeneration of Africa's speech, one of the remarkable things about it is how it glorifies African history and the institutions that Africans had created themselves. I mean, if you look at African history, generally, women had played a significant role. I mean, some of this work, Professor Ndlovu has written about it. In fact, some of the most powerful political figures, I mean, in African history were women. It's quite interesting then that, for instance, somebody like Sam, who was quite aware of this history, that when he started this Parliament of the People, suddenly women are not given the equal rights that men were given. I mean, if anything, I mean, the 1919 Constitution of the ANC presents women in a rather unflattering terms. I mean, that they should be there to entertain men. So it is, I mean, in a sense, it is a blot. Even when some, I mean, one of the examples, I mean, and we're talking earlier on, that one of the instrumental persons, both in the founding of the ANC as well as in the newspaper, was Queen Labutsibeni of Swaziland. And so it says, I mean, there's a book here, and it says Queen Regent Labutsibeni with Sam and Princes Malunga and Sobus, right? I mean, so it tells you that these founders of the ANC were not just only aware of the history, but they were interacting with very powerful women like Queen Labutsibeni, who were funding the ANC itself, and yet in the constitution of the ANC, and suddenly women are excluded. Perhaps somebody could say, maybe they bring issues of education, but we are pretty educated African females. Charlotte Macleod is one of them. I mean, she gets a degree in 1902, a BSc from overseas, and she was not the only one. So there were educated women there who could have played a critical role. And in fact, they did play a critical role. One of the first protest actions or movements, I mean, it is in Bloemfontein. Women organize themselves. I mean, they confront the white authorities against passes. I mean, some of the organizations, the Bantu Women's League, that Charlotte Macleod is involved in the formation in 1919, those are organizations of women. And so in 1943, when the constitution of the ANC is revised and women are made full members of the ANC, it's not as if in the first 30 years
there are no women doing liberation politics.
There are prominent women. I mean, the Daughters of Africa is one of the organizations that are started by. So there are women who are also actively engaged not only in political work, but also in intellectual work. I mean, writing for newspapers and writing about the rights of women, of Africans. So there are exclusion in a sense when you look at the larger context. It's quite odd, I mean, that an organization such as the ANC that had this vision, I mean, that of a new modernity, but in its constitution in the earlier years, I mean, excluded women. Yeah.
I mean, if you remember when we opened this program, I made reference to the fact that Queen Mother Labutsibeni was a member of the House of Chiefs, and therefore there's no excuse why we shouldn't have a female president in South Africa, because I said, what was striking about it, when she was from Swaziland, but she was accepted as a prominent member. And when the ANC writes its history, they miss the point in the sense that they confuse him with her grandson, King Soposa, rather than, because there are implications. Why is she part of the leadership then during those times? And we have to also take it into cognizance that the 1954 Women's Charter precedes the Freedom Charter of 1955. And to some extent, there are mirror images of both charters, that I even think that some of the clauses in the 55 document are from the 54 document by women for themselves. But we know more of the 55 document was the 54 document exists. We can recite the 55 document, by line, but we cannot recite
the Women's Charter.
The Women's Charter, which I think we're giving you that exercise, that as you carry on with this project, you find a way of popularizing it, like we know the Freedom Charter, because it is there, and it is by women. Yeah.
But also the challenge to this modern question, urban question, and urban environment, is that there's now the inevitability of a very urban and well-organized woman in Johannesburg, as a citizen of Johannesburg who is confronting in many ways than one a much more different aggressive past law than the men. I do think maybe we proceed from there to Pan-Africanists, the chaps that think they are doing something. You had a page here of the Youth Leagues.
In fact, Bloemfontein is
page 89.
89.
Bloemfontein is also strong in past laws, and Wynberg and it, so women in that part of the country.
So Prof was mentioning there were already before 1944 youth activities, political activities, and branches. So there's Mda, who, according to the other Matthews, that's the actual first president of the Youth League, because Lembede is sort of a convener. But the first person to be elected in a conference of the Youth League as the president of the Youth League is A.P. Mda.
Let's go back to the issues about Dube and
Seme.
Who 1909.
Oh,
Yeah,
Khubusani and
Dube.
Jabavu, yes.
Dube and Khubusani.
Yes.
There are people who argue that Khubusani is the first president of the ANC. But my colleague explained yesterday, why that's inaccurate. But there are people who are my colleagues who are academics.
Actually, I'm happy that you say that you are colleagues. It's just in fact, they say, when I was reading one of the day, they say the founding conference of 1912 was the revival of but just because we are mentioning a very important point though about the women's league, because if we said the 1930s actually was a very difficult moment, right, in the 1930s. The 1940s is a moment of fundamental transformation in many ways. That is what makes it possible for all of these things now that we are talking about. Because the main reason why there is this fundamental transformation is because of the war. In the same way, the immediate aftermath of the First World War, had brought about serious political activism, in a sense, that we talk about, and made the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union to thrive. And so what the Second World War does, as we have already mentioned, is that it draws quite a large number of people into the urban centers. These are the people who become a political base that the ANC
is mobilizing,
right? And it is young people, it is women. So it is not surprising that when Nkrumah amends the constitution of the ANC in 1943, suddenly those people are there, especially the Women's League. Now, there had been calls for the organization of young people, the way youth organizations. It is interesting, actually, that when you look at the Congress Youth League Manifesto, it does acknowledge that there are youth organizations that are there. One of the persons who called for the establishment of the Congress Youth League actually is T.M. Werane. Interestingly, it's T.M. Werane who says we need a Congress Youth League. Why? Why do they need a Congress Youth League? It's because there was indeed a complaint that the old guard of the ANC and its tactic of not confronting head-on the political and economic of exclusion of Africans had become a problem, and it was starting to cause a crisis. It was making Africans to lose confidence in the ANC itself, whether it could be a vehicle for their own liberation. And so there was agitation that there has to be an organization, a militant organization of young people. The decision is taken in 1943, actually, at the ANC conference in 1943.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
I think there's a 1938-39 document by Seme
Yes.
about the role of the youth.
In fact, it is much
it-
earlier.
yeah.
It is, but it doesn't even talk about youth. I mean, it does not only talk about youth. It talks even about children and women, children, but young people as, in a sense, independent political subjects, right? With a voice inside the ANC, because that is what they call was for, right? That starts, I mean, I said earlier on that it's quite interesting that A.P. Mda attends the conference of the ANC in 1937 that votes out Sam. And A.P. Mda is born in 1916. And it might be useful to think about generational terms, because these people who are emerging in the 1940s now, who are at the forefront of the formation of the Congress Youth League, this is a group of people, most of whom who were not born when the ANC was founded in 1912. Most of them. They were
born after.
After a few years after its formation, right? They come out of age. I mean, late 1930s, 1940s, right? I mean, let's think about some of the characters.
They're in their 20s in the
They're in their
1940s.
20s.
Yes.
Think about the characters. I mean, let's take Lembede. Lembede is born in 1917. We've just mentioned A.P. Mda.
1960.
is born in 1960. Let's talk about Madiba. He's born in 1918. Tambo in 1917. Machombos, if I'm not mistaken, I think it is around 1917. W.F. Nkomo. These are the people who are born just after the ANC has been established. They are not there in the 1920s. They are kids. I mean, Sobukwe, who becomes one of the prominent members of the Congress Youth League, is only born in 1924.
Yes, yeah, he's much younger.
He's much younger.
He's a bit of a, maybe almost a 10 years
10
difference.
years a difference. I mean, so
almost between him and Mda,
there's a good 10, well, I mean, almost 10 years, 7 years, 10 years.
Yeah. And I mentioned Mda because Mda, incidentally, is not only concerned of the formation of the PAC, he actually joins it later.
Yes. I mean, even if you take somebody, Jordan Ngubane, I think he's born in 1917 also, right? So these are the people who do not know the ANC well.
Sisulu is a big...
He's a bit younger. He's younger. He's older, sorry.
He's older, Sisulu. Sisulu is 19...
Sisulu is older. I think he's around
1912.
He's 1912, right?
Sisulu.
He's 1912. So, but here's...
I should make sure, because I'm interested in also how Sisulu is the main youth leaguer as well. I mean, he almost always he becomes the first SG.
Yeah, but what is interesting though about,
if I'm not mistaken,
what is interesting about Sisulu though, those few years, I mean, because I think he's born in 1912, those few years and the fact that
1912.
he gains his experience, I mean, because he starts working early. So he has organizational experience that most of these young people in the Congress Youth League who come in the Congress Youth League do not have. They come from universities, most of them. Now, I mean, let's take the conveners, now that you have mentioned the conveners. So there had been this call that there has to be formation of a youth league, right? this call is pushed by younger people who think that the approach that their fathers, in a sense, right, who had founded the ANC, the approach of reasoning with white authorities that are excluding and oppressing black people is not working. That there needs to be confrontation, in a sense, right? There needs to be organization, militants. There needs to be organization of this nascent urban population now, because suddenly we could organize these people. But the way people who were leading the ANC, part of the so-called old guard, who saw that call as problematic, as threatening, and one of them is AWG champion. He was absolutely opposed, and he told Nqulunga that we are making a mistake. Nqulunga eventually agreed that the Congress Youth League should be established. And when they removed him in 1949, Champion said, "I told you so." Said, "I told you so." I said, these young people are troublesome. But so, in a sense, the generation that forms the Congress Youth League, you could say in many ways, right? This is a generation of the sons and daughters of the founders of the ANC, in a sense. And I think Joe Matthews is a very interesting example of that. I mean, of that. Now, but what did these young people want? What did and actually that manifesto, it's quite interesting actually, because the manifesto of the Congress Youth League is quite interesting, because it starts to make certain assertions, I mean, to use a language that had been absent, that had not been used by their fathers, by the founders, in a sense. I mean, first of all, they make a strong ideological assertion, in a sense. They say our fundamental ideology and philosophy is Africanism. And they say we reject any foreign ideologies. Now, it is interesting to just to dwell on that, because that was a rejection of communism. That was a rejection of communism by making that statement. But they also have a critique of the ANC itself, and their critique of the ANC is that it has declined because it is not mobilizing, it is an elitist organization. And that what is required...
It's an organization of gentlemen.
Of gentlemen. That what is required in many ways is a program that is going to confront racial exclusion head on. So that is what emerges, I mean, with the establishment of the Congress Youth League in 1944. The socio-economic context, because we need to go back to that, I mean, it's quite critical, because we could say, why did it not emerge, I mean, in the 1920s?
Yes.
Yeah, because even when we assess the leadership of the ANC, we do need to keep that context in mind. That South Africa of 1944 is completely different from the South Africa of 1914. It's a much more developed country. The modes of transportation has changed.
But this is nonetheless, another important thing before you go to socioeconomic conditions. These are young adults.
Yes.
Majority of whom...
It's professionals.
They are young professionals.
Because
when 1940 starts, I think Walter joins the ANC in 1940.
Yeah, these are professionals.
Work-wise,
I mean, maybe Mda was a member already,
as
well, maybe as Omgov, but Tambo, Mandela, Sisulu, they were very new in the ANC itself.
Yes. But that is also understandable.
That's number one. Number two, they by 44, Madiba is 26, Tambo 27, as well as someone like AP is 28,
Yes.
Mda 27.
Yes.
It's important because what we then call the youth in the after 76,
This is something
it's
different.
people who are supposed to be called children.
Yeah, that is true. Those are just
the Youth
teenagers.
Day of South Africa's age profile.
Yeah. No, it's true.
Although I think the Congress Youth League always held
Yeah.
to young professionals.
Yeah.
The struggle for the young professionals is a fundamentally very different struggle.
Yeah.
Because, and you now go to those social conditions,
Yeah.
which make them say they are youth.
Yeah.
Because they are young professionals. They've got, initial questions of young adulthood that they're dealing with.
That's true.
Maybe the universities.
Yeah.
But you don't have the articulation until, Prof will correct us as well, until the late 1960s. And also because of Bantu education. Because Bantu education unleashes a huge mass program of schools. That's why the PAC could have high school going students and the Youth League of the 1960s.
Yeah.
It's beginning to have teenagers
Yeah.
as the youth that is being mobilized. Otherwise, 1940s, these are young adults, some of which are already married.
Yeah, these are young adults. But there's something
So
about
something important about that.
Yeah, but what is also interesting, there is Fort Hare now.
Yes.
Fort Hare been established in 1916. So a number of these guys are studying at Fort Hare. Universities like Wits are starting to open up to Africans. So, I mean, if you check Dr. W.F. Nkomo, Majombozi, they are students at...
No, but you're making a mistake, Prof, because this old guard...
studied overseas.
The overseas.
Yeah, agreed. But this old guard were in their 20s.
When they did what? When they started the ANC.
ANC.
No, true.
Do you understand my point?
That is
when Seme is making all these calls,
he's young. He's young.
And the
29.
ANC, when the ANC is founded,
Yeah,
it
it's
is
founded by
actually-
young people.
it's actually the organization of the youth.
No, it's founded by young people.
All the organization whose age profile are these chaps who then say in the 1940s that they are the youth.
I mean, I think
There's something interesting
I think
about
the eldest person at the conference in 1912 is Khubusane, who's
It's
54 years old.
That's the oldest person
That's
in
the
the
oldest
room.
person.
Majority, it's
People in their 20s,
and early 30s.
early 30s.
Yes.
These are the people who are. But I mean, if you look at the world generally, people who led organizations were young people, who led countries were young people.
Yes.
So I mean, this idea that you need to be in your 70s,
Yes.
it's just a relatively new thing, right? I mean, countries were led by young
People in their
young people.
youth. Yes.
People in their youth. I mean, so
No offense, Prof.
yeah.
No.
No, I mean it was people in there.
I mean, I'm 40. By the time you're 40 in the ANC, you were too old for. But also, it seems to me because this group would lead the ANC for the same 30 years.
True, but it's interesting.
You know,
to me.
the guys that founded
But we said
are
that.
taken out by these ones. They're in their 20s.
Yeah, but they lead
They
the
lead the
ANC
ANC
for 30
these
years.
chaps
Yeah.
For 30.
The
More
ones
than 30
before,
years.
the 1912 group to 1940.
Yes.
It's more than
It's 30 years.
Yeah.
These ones take over through Sisulu first.
Yeah.
By the time they...
We're trying to say
By the time Sisulu
we're trying to say that's not new.
I'm sorry, exactly.
Yeah, but if you think, just to go now to a more contemporary period, but people who negotiate the transition to democracy in South Africa are young people. How old was the former president Mbeki when he was negotiating?
He was in his 50s.
No.
He arrives in the country at 50, sure. Him and Chris from 1940, they are born in 1942.
He's 50, he's born 1942.
Yeah.
He's just getting to 50.
Yes.
Right? He's getting to 50.
The chaps that are young,
it's people like Tieto Mbuyiseni.
Is Cyril.
Yeah.
Is Tito, but I'm thinking about
even the Sakema goes those people.
You know what is he saying? He's saying they don't speak that language when they come back in the 1990s. They start speaking that language. Because when it goes to Vietnam...
Who's this?
The president.
Thier.
Yeah. How old is he? When it goes to Vietnam, is it 78?
78. Yes. He is in his 30s.
And Vietnam, Vietnam
that's
is
very important. Yes.
Is instructive in terms of understanding the mass struggle.
Yes.
And when he explains it, that there's nothing special about the Green Book. Because whatever they were trying to do then, earlier, that's the reason why he ended up in Swaziland, because he was trying to inculcate the very same ideas. That's why, because the Black Consciousness movement was above the ground, they could go to Swaziland and they could discuss these issues that, please, because we are not banned, can we talk about the mass struggle?
Yes.
And also the issue about Inkatha, the fact that we might say different things, but Inkatha is part of that discussion. So when they go to Vietnam, it's like a study group. So then he understands that whatever they are,
he's the youngest in the delegation,
yeah, whatever they offered to wear when they were in Swaziland.
I've always been curious. It's an issue for a different.
So I think
a different day
for that. Yeah.
When the ANC goes and sends a delegation to Vietnam, it's OR. It's Moses Mapi. I mean,
I've forgotten.
What's his name? Joe Modise. It's Slovo, as far as I remember. It's TM. I think
Representing the youth.
Yes, I think Mabida as well, if I'm not mistaken. I've always wondered, and don't answer it today, why was Chris not there in that delegation? Because this is a delegation that basically goes to understand guerrilla warfare. Because the Vietnamese are at the end of their sort of struggle.
And the role of the masses in terms of that.
So anyway, discussion for another day. ANC is a very, very strange organization. The ways in which people remember it today. 1940s, the Youth League is formed. The Youth League is young adults.
Yes.
Another thing happens as well in the 1940s.
Yeah.
And I want you to bring you in here, Prof. The congresses, there's the Indians are also organized. Something people don't know, that up until the 1980s, the ANC's membership in the leadership did not allow anybody that was not African. But you've got an Indian Congress, you've got an SACP that is very active as well at the time. You've got how does Kuma navigate organizations of that nature, but also the communists?
In fact, let alone the communists then. Because
the communists are actually strong in the organization. They're in the national executive. We mentioned all of them, Thabo Mofokeng, Kotane. They are full participants in the African struggle, they are African nationalists. I mean, what becomes negotiation and the navigation that Puma does
in a sense, in terms of modernizing the organization, I think Prof. Ngqulunga has said it, that he was a bridge, and then he was ahead of his time to see to it that, the alliance politics are quite crucial. The convention, by including up to Moran, might have started those nuances in terms of discussion. But here, in 1948 or so, it was formalized. Because if you think about it, 48 also says to them the possibilities are there that the Nationalist Party is going to be in power. Because it comes into power in 48. Therefore, the alliance politics are going to be crucial. Then, as Prof. Ngqulunga said, because Kuma is ahead of his time. He makes it happen through the Doctor's Pact. And
what is the Doctor's Pact for a basic audience member or a member of? Explain it in the most accessible way.
In the most accessible.
We always hear Doctor's Pact. Who are these doctors? Then I think you are talking about.
I'm going. I'm going to make it simple for us.
Yes, please.
I think that was the most challenging issues about us. If we write about our struggle, you always use capital P for black and lowercase b for blacks. So we were praised as Africans, colors, and Indians. Therefore, it means that we shouldn't be parochial. So there has to be a united front amongst us as the oppressed people in the country. And therefore, Kuma and Dr. Dadu are representing the South African Indian Congress and also the Transvaal and the Natal Indian Congress. They have to come together with the ANC and challenge the common enemy who happens to be the white oppressor. So there was no time now, for different approaches to the same struggle. So it so happens that there were medical doctors who were politicians who had assumed leadership positions. Maybe we might say, we say Kuma was ahead of his time. Maybe because he was a medical doctor, maybe we can say the scientific method helped him to visualize the ANC in a different way and organized it the way Professor Ngqulunga said. He was methodical about doing things. We're quite aware that in terms of the finances, the trade union movement was camping under the ANC because the ANC had the finances. So he was helping them to a large extent, because of his methodical approach to doing things. So that's why then with his colleagues in the South African Indian Congress, he was able to work with them because they were all medical doctors as leaders. Maybe that's the simplest way I can
of explaining that. Do you want to? Dadu was active also in other formations other than Indian Congress. Surprisingly, there is some moment later in exile, in the external mission, where he was crucial. But do you want to do a comparison for me here? The other thing is the communists. The Youth League gets formed and they centralize the A in the ANC. They call themselves Africanists. To try and say something that Pixley Isagagaseme had fought in relation to Gumede.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
so the struggle of communists in the ANC and communists openly in as an organization comes back to the fore. They must be saying this because Puma had returned into the ANC's relations, open relations. He had returned the communist. And again, the significance in this case,
Of course.
whilst Gumede had been working with Laguma, Laguma who was marginalized because the communists didn't want to work. The white communists were critical of the ANC, didn't want to work with the ANC unless the Comintern imposed on them. They lose the conference of the ANC in 1937. The question is back on the table. But in this case, the SACP is under the leadership of Africans. Bongani is the leader. And he's sitting in the National Executive Committee. Just take us through how, in that decade, almost like Dr. Kluma suffers the same fate as he suffers the same fate as Pixley Sagagasene at the hands of Africanists.
But I mean, it's a very it is interesting when the Congress Youth League issues its manifesto. In the first page of the manifesto, because it has to define what is the problem. And it's interesting, it says the fundamental problem, the fundamental contradiction in South Africa is a race problem. It says when white people, the white race is quite specific actually. I can read some of it for you here. In South Africa, the conflict has emerged as one of race on the one side and one of ideals on the other. The white man regards the universe as a gigantic machine hurtling through time and space to its final destination. Individuals in it are but tiny organisms with private lives that lead to private deaths. Personal power, success, and fame are the absolute measures of values, the things to live for. It says Africa has a complex problem. Stated briefly, it is the contact of the white race with the black has resulted in a set of conflicting conditions and outlooks on life, which seriously hampers Africa's progress to nationhood. So this is interesting because the Youth League says the problem of South Africa, like Du Bois said, that it is the problem of the color line. That is how, now, I mean, if you think about it, communists think the problem of South Africa is a class line. It's a class problem.
Well,
but then the Youth League says, that is the reason why in the same manifesto it says, but that analysis, that's a foreign ideology. You guys have imported a foreign ideology and you want to impose it on us. Where does Kluma stand on this thing ideologically? That's a question. And I think that's the reason why Kluma actually is one of the greatest president of the ANC, if not the greatest. Because Kluma is an African nationalist and a Pan-African.
Of course.
Yes, he is. But Kluma is thinking tactically. He knows that Africans alone cannot win the struggle. They need to build alliances, right? Because not only is the oppression in South Africa confined to Africans, Indians and coloreds are also oppressed.
Isn't it here, these Africanists, these chaps, I mean, what is really at stake is international education. The reading-
This group.
These are fought hair, Vicks. They don't have the radical exposure of the founders of the ANC. The founders of the ANC lived outside South Africa.
But they are also partly reacting. There is a context to the emergence of this assertive Africanism or African nationalism. Because and there are 2 points about the context we need to take into consideration. Firstly, remember that there is a war that is being fought
Yes.
in the world.
By the way.
And in many ways, it is a war that is fought over the hierarchy of races.
Absolutely.
Right? Because Hitler has come up with an ideology of of white superiority, the Aryan race,
Yes.
right? And every other race to Hitler is inferior. So these Africans in the Congress Youth League, these young people are saying, actually, this humanity belongs to all of us. It is our collective heritage. And as Africans, we have something to contribute. So it's partly a reaction on that. But there is also a reaction to the South African condition. Remember that the National Party
Is on the rise.
is on the rise.
Yes.
And it is preaching a particular ideology that says an African is inferior.
Yes.
These guys are also asserting in a sense, their humanity. I mean, it's interesting that when you read the manifesto, this invocation of humanity all the time, that civilization is our collective heritage, that an African has something to contribute to human civilization. These were not things that were being just thought out of context. I mean, there are certain...
I don't know how
currents
different Ngqulunga, except the Hitler situation, but everybody who is reading the global balance of forces in the 1940s, who was alive from the late 1800s, is fully aware at this stage that there is a significant movement which has taken over called the communist movement. It is fighting much more heroically. I mean, the Americans joined the war a little bit late, but in a way, the characters who are in the room when the Youth League is making this claim would have dealt with the question of communism in 1937.
Yes.
But amongst them would have been people whose world exposure was robust. They were aware by that time that, look, I mean, in the room is Kotani, in the room is
Yes.
in the room is people that would have been there when Kumete came back to say
to the Soviet
he
Union.
had been to the Soviet Union, New Jerusalem,
And the others have been there too.
Yes.
But the argument is not.
I want to challenge
you.
you.
A response to
I want to
communism,
challenge you.
though.
To,
Yes.
I want to challenge you a little bit to think about
It's
it
not
in practical
yeah,
terms.
it's
The
not
chaps
in-
are responding
No, it's not international.
to communism.
No, it is not only to communism.
Mhm.
They are also responding to smarts and trust issues.
Agreed.
Okay, let me read in the manifesto what
Agreed.
they
I
say.
mean-
They say to mislead the world and make it believe that the white man in South Africa is helping the African on the road to civilized life. The white man has arrogated to himself the title and role of trustee of the African
I'm not
peace.
opposed. I want to do something provocative.
Yeah.
On what grounds did these chaps think they're advancing a new argument? I mean, on what grounds? Was anything in there from an ideological point of view different to the ideas that found the African National Congress? I mean, what happens is much more radical in 1910. You explained it.
Yeah.
The Africans are told you are not part of the union.
Yes.
You are inferior in the union.
Yes.
1936, when the Cape chaps come in,
Yes.
you have the first president from the Eastern Cape or the Cape,
Yes.
who is Uma himself.
Yes.
They are defeated on the basis of the fact that they are less than human. I'm saying other than we are Africanists in that there are these foreign ideas, and the only foreign idea who is a target there is communism. Other than that, read it. Read it. I mean, the clarion call of Pixley Sagagaseme, the 1918 Constitution, the Africans' claims document, but also the Bill of Rights of 1923, same issues, property, entrepreneurship. We must be allowed to trade. We must be allowed to have businesses of our own, blah, 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 blah. Were they not aware of this history?
No, they are aware of the history because
Of a thing that they are joining, the ANC.
Yes, they are aware of it, and they have a critique of the ANC, right? Their critique of the ANC, they say this organization has existed for 3 decades. In these 3 decades,
it's just been doing petitions.
It has been doing petitions, making accommodations, deputations, making accommodations with white authority, right? Yes. These things in many ways have resulted to not. No, Smart says so. Because that's
not an ideological difference.
But no, it is not.
We will come to that. I'm pushing you on. You are saying the organization must be robust.
Yeah.
The claim upon which you make a tactical, programmatic critique is an ideology.
Yeah.
Can we agree, Babu Ndlovu? The Youth League, to the extent to which they are making, this catches up with them later.
I mean, what is the ideology of the ANC in 1937 or 1938? Or 1940, 41.
It is, as you have both stated, fundamentally Pan-Africanist. It is an African. That's why they even change the name to say we must not be a Natives Congress, we must be an African National Congress. They are not the ideas, the claim of the union itself. That we must become a union of Africans or a union of natives, African sovereignty, African rights, Africans who can determine their own future, who are part of this broader humanity, blah, blah, blah. We must have property. Puma establishes an African club, buys a gigantic building. Seme, a gigantic building in the middle of Johannesburg. Seme, you know. Uma himself, he, by bringing the organization into Johannesburg, when they rewrite the constitution, the chiefs are okay, but we'll see them. We're going to integrate women. And why do you think you are the African? Why would you make...
As a youth.
But no, we are the ones who are Africanists. They say that to distinguish themselves from Kotana.
I don't know. I don't think so. That's the reason why the context really matters. Because it's not only themselves defining who they are. Indians are defining themselves in India. Yeah. There is a rise of Indian nationalism. And that is the reason why...
You are missing my point. No, I understand. It's not a new definition.
No. Wait for him to finish.
I really think that
the Youth Leagues.
I think there's an important point.
Okay. Yeah.
And by the way, it's a point that even Tima adopts. It's an ideology. Awesome. Fundamentally, there is an issue about the relation of Africans in South Africa to whites in the first instance. And by asserting his stance, they are redefining this relationship of Africans. They say, we are here as Africans and we are proud of who we are. And we can think for ourselves. We do not want anyone, not just only communists, but also white liberals, right? Remember that Pima increasingly his relationship with the Institute of Race Relations changes. I mean, it becomes confrontational. He says, you cannot tell me how I should think and how I should lead the African National Congress, right? So there is that, in a sense, that context that by asserting their African identity would partly a response to an unequal relationship that has existed for a long time, even after the formation of the African nation.
I'm going to push back, Prof. I'm saying, to the extent to which they think they're saying something new, are they?
Maybe not. Maybe not. Because
This is my problem. You see, I'll tell you why. Because all of them, except AP, Lembede dies, Sisulu, Mandela, Tambo. By 1949, they've got a program of action. They put a foot down to Kuma. They elect him out. At the turn of the decade, they are working with communists, and they are at the forefront, at the heat of the Freedom Charter. The occasion, which occasions the breakaway of the Africanists. And the Africanist claim is, you have betrayed this thing you are explaining.
I do wonder whether he had
I wonder.
not died.
Come again?
I wonder whether if Lembede had not died, who was a strong advocate of
Anti-communism.
partly anti-communism, but the independence of Africans, right? That this struggle was first and foremost the struggle that Africans had to fight and wage
On their own.
right?
Yes.
That was a fundamental issue for Lembede, but for far too long, even as we've been waging this struggle as the African people, there have been external actors who have been defining the terms according to which we should fight it. And by those, don't discount the role of white liberals, what was called the Joint Council movement, in trying to tell Africans how they should wage their struggle for independence. It should be reasonable. This should be acceptable. You should accept this. You should not accept that. I mean, what is remarkable about Kuma when he becomes president is that he starts pushing back against the so-called friends of the natives.
And yet it is Kuma who negotiates a alliance with the South African Communist Party.
Yes, but on the basis of equality.
Agreed. I mean, I'm all for this.
On the basis of equality.
Do you, Professor Ndlovu, want to come in here now? Because maybe my struggle will be much more clearer if you can explain this Communist Party alliance. I'm pushing this because it is breaking apart. We are about to have a Pixley Sakakaseme moment, but in reverse, where the party for the first time since Bunting and Leroux doesn't want to work with nationalists.
Look, Kuma is quite crucial in the sense of making it a point that African workers have organizational power. They are not recognized. African workers are not recognized by the state. The recognition of African trade unions comes in with the Vihano Commission in the
1970s,
1970s.
late 70s,
Yes.
yeah.
Nkrumah is aware that we don't have to wait for the 1970s.
Hmm.
You know, and is aware that the conception of African trade unions became more powerful with the arrival of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. He's aware, but he's a pragmatist in the sense that I am not going to dismiss workers because of...
You want to be Africanist.
Yes. Because he is...
I'm gonna push back. I mean, I had to.
Yeah, yes. So in a sense, we think the young upstarts themselves, you know, they see a chance, they take advantage of things that are not necessarily new, even though they claim that these are new issues. They get rid of them. You know, when they get rid of them, it does. They even say it in their manifesto. This is a battle of ideas. You know, this is a battle of ideas.
What was Ngqulunga in your view? What, except that Nkrumah was entertaining Indian Congress, was entertaining the communists, was entertaining that type of cooperation on the one hand.
Yes.
But on the other, that he had actually been the last of a generation, so to speak, of deputations, which you have indicated that this was a false reading of the history of the ANC. My
Because-
other problem with this group,
Because CODESA is deputation, it's dialogue.
agreed, but the ANC being characterized over that 30 years as having only engaged in deputations and letters, you said that it was not a correct reading of the ANC.
Yeah.
Park that.
Yeah.
When they say there was an ideological battle between themselves and Nkrumah, what was it?
Well, I mean, the difference in the main between the Congress Youth League and Nkrumah,
I mean, now 49 conference.
yeah, but it is not so much on ideological ground. It is on how to prosecute the struggle for liberation. The leaders of the Congress Youth League, they say the time for deputations is gone. We need a program, one, that will mobilize the African masses that we currently have, right? So we need to turn the ANC into a mass-based organization.
Okay, that's not an ideological
No, it's
question.
not. That's the
So
reason
you
why.
agree?
I agree.
Can we close at an ideological level?
There was no
Because
difference.
think again what Nkrumah does. It's not only about the islands with the South African Indian Congress. Nkrumah fights the struggle at the UN. At the UN, what does it do? He uses, as you was explaining, he uses the Indian question. You know, he can't use South Africa, which is a full sovereign state, represented at the UN. He has to use the Indian representation at the UN to present basically the same case that is fighting against here. But he knows the South African government is there at the UN through SMARTS, because SMARTS was one of the drafters anyway in California. You remember, Nkrumah?
Yeah.
We went to California and then SMARTS was asked Nkrumah, what do you want there? You know, and he tells him.
He said, "Koma, what are you doing here?" But Dr. Ndlozi, actually, I won't let this one go.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Technical
understand-
questions
no,
are not
yeah.
are not new to whether to the determination who must lead the next phase of the struggle. I'm fully mobilized that at the least, in fact, at the most, the distinctions is that perhaps, and you again, you are a bit of an expert than me here. We need Dr. Kuma's biography, but
Here.
AB, yes, but
Is there
for whatever reason,
Stephen
Stephen Gish, yes.
Wow, this is, yeah.
Yes,
Stephen Gish.
is a proper one, yeah.
Wow, yeah.
But what issues did Nkrumah have with the tactical propositions of the Youth League?
He thought organizationally. He thought organizationally the ANC was not ready for the confrontation they were proposing. Said, I mean, it is, in fact, he thought while the proposition or the argument of the Youth League was legitimate, that there needed to be mass mobilization and the confrontation of the state, of the white state, that organizationally the ANC was not strong enough to confront the state successfully. Fundamentally, that was
Organizationally.
Organizational.
that
We still
it
have to
needed to
consolidate,
build organizational and mobilizational capacity before it confronted the state in the manner the Congress Youth League in its program of action was proposing.
Break that down. What does it mean?
No,
The organization is not ready.
But it's not against.
remember.
Yes, he's not against. He says not now.
Yeah, he says not
What,
now.
what about? Of course, I see his obsession. He's the guy.
Who found
that
the
just-
organization in a weak
Yeah,
state.
in its weakest
I mean,
state.
it doesn't. Remember, it doesn't have branches. It doesn't have branches. I mean, it doesn't have financial resources. It is divided. He says, what we have started doing. Remember, Nkrumah is elected in December 1940, right? These calls.
And the old guard is still with
is
him
there,
until 43.
and the things, the old guard things actually not too fast. It still believes in deputations. I mean, members of the old guard are participating in the Native Representative Council. They think actually this is the way to go, right? Nkrumah says, here are these young people who say, enough now. Let us confront these people who are excluding us. Nkrumah says, well, yes, I accept that we need to change our tactics, that we need to confront the state that excludes us. But look at the organization that you have.
How can you?
Can you sustain? Can you deal with, if the state hits back? Can you sustain what you are proposing? I don't think you are. The Congress Youth League says we are ready, I suppose perhaps in the manner that young people generally, it's like, why wait? I mean, we've had 3 decades.
Yes.
We have been going...
To this extent, I think they were correct, because the next decade that follows starts with theaters of defiance.
But
of,
here's-
That is
who was
the
correct?
organization.
The Youth League. Who was correct? The Youth League. I mean, in a sense,
No,
you could say it was. I mean,
But
because
it is-
by 1952, just hardly 3 years after Nkrumah had been defeated, you have the Defiance campaign.
Yes.
That they, as young people, are
leading.
leading the Defiance campaign.
Not just themselves. The ANC is in a defiance campaign. The
Yes.
Secretary General is
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
And if you assess that defiance campaign as well, the ANC's capacity at that time to propel our people.
Yeah.
Because, mobilize, by the time these chaps always make a distinction between organization
Yeah.
and mobilization.
That's
I think
true.
it is that framing of Kwame Toru, who
Yeah.
from the United States.
Yeah.
When
Comment over.
maybe that's what Nkrumah had in mind.
Yeah.
The distinctions between organization and mobilization.
Yeah.
Mobilizations are events, it's stadiums, it's but organization is
Everything.
something else. It's
Because
it's what happens the next day.
Yes.
What Nkrumah loses,
Yeah.
the Youth League, they remove him, they get Moroka, same generation as Nkrumah, but he doesn't last. Luthuli comes in at later stage, and Moroka, true to himself, goes and testifies against them. But my question to both of you is, let's now assess from 1949 to 1960.
Yeah.
Was the Youth League right,
No, it was not
or
wrong.
was the Youth League wrong?
It was wrong because when it was in power from 19 whatever to 1990s, they're still using the comma template.
I will say I'll take a
They're
slightly
still
different
using
view.
the comma template.
I will take
Women, workers, and the youth.
Mm-hmm.
That's comma's template.
The battle seems to be mobilization versus organization. Mobilization is where you get mass action.
And this one is more.
Yeah, it's a rally, it's marches, it's but organization
comma is more.
Is political education. Is what the ANC really became in exile. It became more of a long-lasting institutional form. But in many ways than one, the 1950s are like the 1980s.
Yes.
It's like mass mobilization. It's about big personality, big colorful personalities, often loud, or who are able to express themselves.
You see women marching to the
rooms.
union.
Yes,
it's masses.
But I'm saying that had to rest on something that should last, which is organization.
True.
And my question again is, the readiness of the ANC to unleash what it did in the 1950s, on the basis that it had been in existence, re-established itself under UMA with headquarters, with organizations. That's why it could do what it did in the 1950s. It was ready.
No, but
if it didn't, it might have.
But let's think about the 1940s, because I can understand the argument of the Congress Youth League, right? I mean, there's a lot that is happening in the 1940s, right? There is movement. There is movement, right? There are these movements, and most of them are not organized and led by the ANC itself, right? So because these people are coming, past boycotts,
workers' strikes,
land
occupation.
Land occupation.
Yes.
So there is political ferment in the 1960s.
The movement Bafaleki
yes,
belongs to
that. And Ngqulunga, by the way, to his credit, he sees the potential of what is going on and its promise, right? Because if he's not seeing it, he wouldn't build these bridges with communists, with trade unionists, with the Indians and everyone. So he does see the potential. His worry, I think, partly also because of people who are in his executive, other people who are leading, who are quite conservative. His worry is that if you move too fast, right, you might destroy what promises. That there is a moment here. There is a moment, and I just think as a leader of the ANC, that is what makes Ngqulunga such an interesting figure, in a sense, because it's like he's moving like this, right? There are conservative elements inside, I mean, that he doesn't want to leave behind, right? But also there are these young people and the potential that they represent that he also doesn't want to leave behind. So he's walking a tight, you could say in a sense, this like OR later on. I mean, these are the people who want to carry everyone forward. But these young people, they are saying, let us move now. The moment is now. Thomas says, we are not ready. They say that is the condition for our support for your re-election as President General. Then Thomas says, who are you?
In the first place.
Who are you in the first place? I mean, I have been here for a long time. I have revived this organization. But I think what happens in the early 1950s, in many ways, the ANC that we have come to know in a sense, is defined by that period of the 19th, because it is for the first time that it really becomes a mass political.
But also there's something interesting from the 1950s. These, and Uma going back, these leaders are not, they don't get arrested for confronting the system. The people before them, you know this, in the Mbambata rebellion, in the wars of colonial resistance across the board.
Many people die.
People put their bodies, at stake to demonstrate the preparedness to fight for freedom. Up until Tuma, there are no such characters.
Let me put it different.
Come again?
There's Bulwark, there's
there's Bulwark where more than 300 people dead.
Yeah, but let me put it differently. There's a reason why Kuma decides to focus more or less like a social democrat when he's in Alexandria. There's a reason why he decides to study poverty. There's a reason why he decides to analyze issues like infant mortality rate. So it doesn't have to be death through physical confrontation with the system. So those leaders that you say they didn't go to jail had to deal with these issues. There are people are dying out there.
But there's something to be said about the heroism of the chaps of the 1950s, though. Like that daringness, where you want to talk about Bulwark, you assume people know what you are speaking about. Just repeat it. But to foreground, I mean, whether you are disagreeing or not, I want to argue the national leadership of the ANC from the 1950s is unmatched in the history of the ANC up until then, in their preparedness, regardless of how actually elite propertied they were. The theaters of defiance, of protest, led to a different gear of the struggle, but the heroism, which is enduring in its inspiration for a confrontation for the sake of freedom. Very self-sacrificial as well. Prepared to lose everything, including their lives. This can't quite be said with the same seriousness about the generation before.
And there's an explanation for it. There is an explanation for it. Because what are they reacting to in the 50s? What are they reacting to? There's something significant that has happened in South Africa. The National Party has
apartheid is in full swing from 48.
From 48.
It's legalized.
And apartheid represents an existential crisis for black people. It's either we fight now or we die. Right? That is what they are responding to, which is not to argue that there was no racial discrimination before. But what apartheid represented was something extraordinary. I mean, here is a campaign for the elections in 1948 where Malane and National Party are saying all sorts of things about black people and what they will do when they get into power. And when they did get into power, they didn't play. They didn't play. And so that jolted Africans into saying, it's either we fight or we die as a people. Because what apartheid...
Maybe also the inspiration that the Holocaust was these are Nazis that just took over.
Yeah.
If they have to, they will subject us into a genocide.
And we need to confront them. But there is another point we shouldn't overlook. Even if, because I remember that the National Party, in a sense, in some form, had come into power in 1924. It ruled from 1924 to
As part of a
1939,
coalition.
right?
Coalition politics don't start.
Yes, but
with
part
what
of,
is
part of the reason, perhaps the response was not the same, is because the social circumstances, the socio-economic circumstances were different. I mean, just think a bit. Think that you are Mahabane in 1924. Herzog government has come in, that coalition government with the Labour Party, Cresswell's Labour Party in 1924, right? And you think, we need to fight here. We need to organize, we need to mobilize people. Where do you go? You get into your horse and go away. The modes of transport, people are all over the place, right? To get from Cape Town to Johannesburg will take you days to go there. South Africa is developed by the 1950s.
But compare that with the bulwark.
Bulwark is interesting, actually, because...
And Bambata.
Okay, let's start with Bulwark.
Because it's not about national stay away or its tactic. Were they willing to go on a march to a police station? Were they willing to go on a march to a mayor's office? 200 of them, 300 of them, and state their disagreement with the system.
The women.
This is not,
the
women did.
But I don't think it was out of fear. It's because they...
No, certainly not out of fear. But I'm saying it is not an option that was not there. No, as you say, because simply Mpanza was riding on a horse when he was occupying land.
But he was riding a horse here in what we know as Soweto. He was not riding a horse from Queenstown to...
I'm saying if you get 400 people in a specific area to say, kuthiwa namhlanje siyokhwishwa la, siyokoshwa, siyosuswa violently, let us march.
But Nkosi, when he dies, about 3,000 people on march.
Yeah.
Who's that?
Johannes Nkosi.
Yes.
When he dies in 1938.
Yeah.
1930?
Yes.
You see what I mean?
No, but no.
So that's why I think that disagreement was sharp, is that the chaps didn't believe in those tactics, not because they were not available. Also, Johannesburg by 1924, it has workers that are going on strike.
Not true.
The 1920s.
No. That is true. But the leadership of the ANC, for a number of reasons, including its socialization, politicization, its interests, and also the racial order that exists in South Africa at the time, right? Yes, it is white people until 1948 and beyond, white authorities who oppressed black people. They never said black people are not South Africans, that they do not belong in the state, in the polity that we call South Africa. It is after 1948 where it is said, basically, that black people belong to some place that eventually was called Bantustan, and that they must be forcefully removed from where they are. They must start their own countries, like they are creating their own countries. They are taking away their South African citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
This is what apartheid did. It says the schools that had taught Africans, the mission schools, and all of these institutions that had sustained African life, limited as it was, unequal as it was, all of those must be destroyed. It says fundamentally you must take the little that Africans had and give it to white people. This is not to say there was equality between 1948.
Yeah.
That is the reason why.
You and I, if you do that, we're not going to see our disagreement. Our disagreement is a tactical one. the tactics of protests. When the chaps in the Eastern in the Cape
Yeah.
Lose their franchise,
Yeah.
there are no demonstrations.
No, but it's understandable.
But my point is, it doesn't mean the option of a demonstration didn't exist at the time.
True.
And it would have possibly been met with more success since the Nazis are not in charge. They take over full government from 48. What if the theaters of mass demonstrations were employed? You were giving an example, for instance, of the passing of the formalization of townships, where black people must be kicked out of certain areas so that they go. Already that occurs in the 1930s. But worse, a white person takes your job. They because of the Great Depression.
Job Reservation Act is 1926.
Yeah, but in the 30s, because of the Great Depression, something even worse happens. It's not just the reservation. They come and take your job and give it to a white person. I'm saying, that's why I keep saying to you, say for us, maybe in Ndlozi, what is the Bulwark Massacre about?
Okay.
And when was it?
Yeah. Okay. Well, the Bulwark Massacre, as you remember, at the beginning, we were talking about these churches, right? These rise of what came to be known as Ethiopian churches, in a sense. So there's this church that is established in the United States, like the AME church, then it comes into South Africa. And in South Africa, its leader is Enoch Mgijima, right, in a place called Bulwark in Queenstown. And so they occupy this...
That's Komani.
Yes, they occupy this piece of land, a commonage, right? And so during Easter, they come, they worship, and then they leave. But in 1920, they come and they do not leave. Right.
It's land occupation.
Yeah, it's basically like land occupation, and the authorities say, you guys go.
And they resist.
And they resist, right? They resist, and they say, and it gets quite confrontational. If you do not leave, we are going to forcefully remove you. And Jan Smuts is prime minister. He sends his police generals there, go tell these people to go away, and they do not leave. And so as the state threatens violence, they say, well, we have our God, and everything that you are threatening is not going to happen, and we are here. And agitated, and I mean, as you know, in the history of South Africa where state violence is involved, especially historically where the white state was unleashing violence against black people, in the main, it would be white citizens agitating it to teach them a lesson. And so the white community of Queenstown stay go teach them a lesson. And of course, they go there in May 1921, and they open within seconds. They open fire against those
How many people die?
Over 300.
Now, compare that with what occasions the formation of Umkhonto.
Of course, I mean it is Shabwe. Yes.
Few months after that, actually the Rand revolt is suppressed with actual military.
Yes.
You see the full. Jan Smuts in that sense was more brutal than the Nets.
No, true.
But nothing like the Bulwark Massacre. Not even up to today. And I'm saying it is really just a matter of tactical and the distinctions is not the brutality as you wanted to say earlier.
No, the choice of tactics.
It's not that these ones were confronted with a less brutal regime.
No.
What came after 48, let me finish the point. What came after 48 was much more brutal and it's the Neds and so on and so forth. I'm saying you have a situation where 300 of your people die. You are the ANC. You are the parliament of the people. I'm sure the ANC released the statement. I'm sure the ANC did a deputation. This is the problem of the 44 generation, is that by the time the same white-only government does in Sharpeville a less measure than what they did in Bulwark, those ones took up arms.
No, but however, all I'm saying,
not even that much.
all I'm saying is that the circumstances in South Africa are different, right? All I'm saying is that the circumstances in South Africa in 1952,
Yes.
right, are fundamentally different from the circumstances in 1921.
Mm-hmm.
And by that, I mean, in 1952, you could mobilize an urban working class that did not exist in numbers, in sufficient numbers, in the 1920s. And that is the reason why it's so difficult to compare the leadership or the presidents of the ANC, because the circumstances that they faced were fundamentally different. Can you imagine a John Langalibalele Dube or a Pixley Seme or Mahabane or Sefako Mahat, right, being President General of the ANC in 1952 when Luthuli became president? When there is a base that you can lead and mobilize. Can you imagine? We'll be talking, I suspect, a lot differently about Pixley Seme than we talk about and have written about today. Right.
I think we leave it at that. This is the Youth League debating with conservative elements. I'm not convinced, maybe Prof is. I think that it is these historic comparisons that make 1944 particular. They were not impatient. They could have been in the room arguing like me. Bulwark Massacre, Women's March, Rand Revolt, Bambata Rebellion, Pondo Revolts. They would have come with so many theaters and said, the ANC has not been around. The ANC has not been around. We need to adopt different. Those are the differences in my view. Of course, circumstances change, but I mean,
Dr. Joseph, let me tell you something. Let me tell you, we are heirs to a great tradition, I can tell you. We are as sometimes when I think who our political and intellectual ancestors are.
No, obviously.
Man,
I'm just accentuating.
I mean, can you think of a
Pixley?
Can you think of a Pixley Kaisagasa
Today?
In the morning of 12 January, of 8 January 1912 in Bloemfontein. He's standing there. He has convened all of these people. He says, we are one people, right? Can you imagine?
Yes, that's a.
Can you imagine?
Historic.
That is historic. Can you imagine? Puma is in New York. He sees Jan Smuts. He says, it has taken me to travel 10,000 miles to see my prime minister. And Smuts says, Tuma, what are you doing here? He is there inside the United Nations General Assembly, pursuing the struggle of our people. Or a tambo everywhere.
We are all together on this
We are
run.
heirs of a great tradition.
We are just marking, understand, what the debate was really about. And certainly, I want to thank both of you, because this is the part of the history of the ANC that is often, because of the argument I'm making, overlooked, and in many ways than one, even erased in certain rooms.
Actually, it's not.
Which I think is wrong.
Actually, it's not the history of the ANC.
Mm.
It's the history of Southern Africa
Yes.
that is neglected.
Yes. Between the 1910s to the 19.
Now, even
40s.
sometimes even before
1940s.
you can think in New York.
49.
Yeah, New York, 1906. April.
New York.
This young man,
That's what I'm
this
saying.
young man stands up. He says, "I'm an African."
And the ANC is not yet
Amen.
formed.
Yeah.
I mean,
So that's why I'm saying it's the
just,
history of
for me,
Southern Africa.
for me, I tell you.
But thank
That's
you.
the reason why I'm so passionate about.